Have you failed to file your GST return for a particular period and now you have received a GST notice from the authorities? Are you wondering what that notice means and what can be the consequences of the same? Well, don't worry. We will try to answer these questions for you today. Welcome back to the Enterslice YouTube channel. My name is Pratibha. In today's video, we will talk about the GST notice served under Form GSTR-3A and how and when to reply to the notice and what are the consequences in case you fail to comply. Well, first thing first, let us try and understand what is GSTR-3A. Well, as notified by the CBIC, the registered taxpayers under the GST regime are required to file monthly, quarterly or annual returns as the case may be. This is a mandatory requirement that has been imposed on the taxpayers, and these registered taxpayers have been classified into various categories as for which they are required to file their returns using different prescribed forms that are to be submitted within the prescribed period. Thus, GSTR-3A is not a form of return but rather is a notice that is issued to a taxpayer who has failed or defaulted to file his GSTR return for a particular period. The authorities will inform you via SMS or email. Section 46 of the CGST Act 2017 provides for this provision, that is notice to the return defaulters. And the draft of GSTR-3A notice can be seen on the screen right now. Now the question arises, to whom this GSTR-3A notice can be issued? The concerned authorities issue a notice under GSTR-3A to the taxpayers who have failed to file their returns under GSTR-3B, which is for the summary of sale and purchase, GSTR-4, which is for the composition dealer, GSTR-5 for the non-resident taxpayers, GSTR-6 for input service distributor, popularly known as ISD, GSTR-7 for the TDS deductor, GSTR-8 for the TCS collector, GSTR-9 which is the annual return, and GSTR-10 which is the final return. Now let's see how can you view or download this notice. In order to view and download the form GSTR-3A, the taxpayer must log into your GST portal by providing your credentials. Simply navigate to the services and click on User Services. Next, click on View Notices and Orders and simply click on Download to generate the notice GSTR-3A. And there you shall have it. Now let's assume that you have been served this notice of GSTR-3A. What now? What is the duty of the taxpayer after receiving such a notice? When a notice under GSTR-3A is served on a defaulting taxpayer, he is required to file the GST return along with the late fee and penalty within 15 days from the date of issue of such notice. Now you may wonder what are the consequences of not filing a return even after the issuance of such a notice. If the defaulting taxpayer fails to file the GST return within these 15 days as well, then the prescribed authority may take various actions such as under Section 62 of CGST Act of 2017, the concerned assessing officer will evaluate the tax liability on the basis of the limited information available with the concerned authority and by applying the best judgment assessment method. Second one is the penalty. In addition to the tax so assessed by the authorities, a penalty of Rs 10,000 or 10% of the tax due, whichever is higher, will be applied to the defaulting taxpayer. No subsequent filing of the returns may be allowed. That is, in case if the defaulter does not file any GST return, then he may or will not be allowed to file any other subsequent returns. Another consequence could be the cancellation of registration. In extreme scenarios where the defaulting taxpayer fails to file GST returns for a continuous period of 6 months, or in the case of a composite taxpayer, failure to file a return is for 3 quarters, then it may also lead to the cancellation of the defaulting taxpayer's GST registration. Another consequence could be initiation of prosecution. If the defaulter still fails to file the respective GST return, then the department may initiate prosecution against the defaulter. Therefore, it becomes imperative for every taxpayer to comply with the GST norms in order to avoid any legal consequences. Now, what is the applicable interest in late fees in case of default in filing GST returns? An interest at the rate of 18% per annum has to be paid by the defaulter, which will be calculated on the amount of outstanding tax to be paid and from the next day of filing till the next date of payment. The late fee for filing a return is Rs 200 per day, that is Rs 100 per day under CGST and Rs 100 per day under SGST. However, the total is subject to a maximum of Rs 5,000. And in case of annual returns, the maximum late fee is subject to 0.25% of the turnover in the state. Now, a question may arise in the mind of the taxpayers. What if there has been no business transaction during a particular period? Are we still supposed to file a GST return? Well, the answer is yes. The registered taxpayers have been mandated to file GST returns even if there has been no business transaction or the business has stopped. In such a scenario as well, the taxpayer is required to file the pending GST returns, especially on receiving the notice under GSTR-3A. Therefore, in case the business has recorded no transaction during a particular period, then such a business shall file a nil return and may apply to discontinue the GST compliance. And in case the business is no longer in operation, the registered taxpayer shall file the pending return for the relevant period and then may apply for cancellation of registration. Therefore, in order to avoid these adverse consequences, it is only advisable to file the GST return within the stipulated time and reply to the GSTR-3A notice timely, as these replies can now be submitted online. However, if you're still facing any trouble in doing so, you may comment down below or call us on the number flashing on your screens to seek expert guidance. That's it for this video. Stay tuned to the channel for more informative content. Thank you.